What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Lord Mantis, entitled Death Mask. This is released on Profound Lore Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Chicago, Illinois, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very ugly, nihilistic style of sludge metal mixed with elements of doom and noise rock. This is a band that has gone through a major transformation in their style and sound over the years. The first time I had ever heard of this band was their 2012 sophomoric effort entitled Perverter. I mean, from the artwork to the lyrics to the musical content, I mean, that was a sludge band unlike anything I had ever heard. I mean, it was just so different, so ugly sounding, and just so harsh. I really love that album a lot, and definitely it was a turning point for them because they had a debut album that came out called Spawning the Nephilim. I believe that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but yeah, comparing that album and then going on to Perverter, you could tell they had a change in their sound and their style. They grew up basically, and now it's been a while since we've heard anything from them. And when word got out that there was going to be a brand new album, I was very excited because I was wondering how they were going to follow up an album as amazing as Perverter. Now we have Death Mask. There's a new inclusion in the band lineup, and that inclusion is Ken Sorceron, who you may best know as the frontman of the black metal band known as Abigail Williams. He's on this album as a guitar player, and I was interested to hear what kind of dynamic he would bring to this album. And now here we are with the third full-length from Lord Mantis entitled Death Mask. It's 7 tracks, and it clocks in at around 47 minutes in length. And pretty much what Perverter had in the department of being a straight-out nihilistic sludge record, Death Mask seems to crank the hatred up even more. This is a very harsh, cold piece of reality. And every single song that's demonstrated on here showcases how evil and how nihilistic things can really be for this band. And the album and everything that's showcased on here just shows you how far Lord Mantis have come along. In hindsight, I don't know if I like this album more than I do Perverter, but in its own special instances, I would say that Death Mask is a success. A very brutal, evil, maniacal kind of success. I mean, the riff work that you hear on the track Body Choke really gets at you and eats at you. It's just a lot of building up, a lot of noisy guitar play. Just the way everything is emphasized and used on that track just really sounds phenomenal. And then moving on to songs like the title track and then Possession Prayer. Even to the second half of this album, where things seem to want to change to a much more evil kind of vibe and tone. That's where I'm almost picking up a sort of black metal-esque sort of idea in certain instances of the riff work. I mean, going to the closing track of this album, Three Crosses, I want to say towards the second half of that track, you get some very evil and twisted sounding guitar riffs. It just sounds so pulsating. It sounds so evil sounding. It's very twisted, and I really love what's being detailed here as far as the guitar work is concerned. The bass tone is very ugly sounding. I love how audible it is in this album's mix. It definitely is a very well heard kind of bass tone, and it definitely suits the idea of a sludge metal record. It's very audible, very well played, and definitely holds a nice balance throughout this entire record. Moving on to the drums. The drums seem to have instances of whether it's either calm or just straight out frantic. I mean, going once again back to the track Body Choke, you definitely get a good kind of pace going for that particular track, and then suddenly you get a smattering of really, really evil sounding blast beats. Just the way the patterns are in the drums, it really, really sounds phenomenal. It's a very, very nicely done drum performance. It doesn't feel like it's meant to be uh, a top kind of tier drum performance, but the way the drums are being handled here, I really, really think they sound good and definitely maintain a very, very good pace throughout. A lot of the songs on here are pretty lengthy, and yet this drummer holds a very, very good amount of stamina. You get the sludge metal instances right away, the quick blast beats, the nice little transitions. It really, really sounds good. And one other thing to point out here is the inclusion of added elements of. There seems to be a bit of an almost industrial, clammy sort of element when it comes to the usage of atmosphere and sound effects. I want to say Sanford Parker is behind this album's production and mixing, and you can definitely tell this is something that he involved himself with, because the noise on here, it really, really adds a bit of a chilling sort of effect to this album. I want to say on the track Possession Prayers, you pick up an almost evil, clammy sort of vibe on that particular song. And then it just, those added elements of atmosphere really, really make you want to have goosebumps. It's really freaky sounding stuff. Uh, and then we move on now to the vocals. Pretty much like the previous record, the vocalist is definitely in a lot of pain and torment. You can definitely tell by his vocal delivery, his screaming, his rasped yelling. It really, really sounds frightening sounding at times. You can definitely tell that this vocalist has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations in his life. And it's very, very evident amongst the vocal performance that's being showcased here. But then we get to the second half of this album. I should also mention that there's a little bit of an instrumental sort of element that goes on this album, the track You Will Gag for the Fix. That's sort of a piano solo sort of interlude. It's sort of the calming moment of this record before getting thrown back into the hellfire that is the second half of this album. You have a track like Negative Birth, which features, if I'm not mistaken, one of the vocalists from the band Indian. Dylan, I believe. He's doing the vocals and the lyrical content as for that particular track, and definitely it's something that stands out as his own kind of track. But then we get to a song like Coil. It pretty much moves along at the typical pace of a Lord Mantis track, but then you get these emotionless, robotic sort of vocals, and not robotic vocals in the sense of like you're listening to maybe an older Cynic release. It's not anything like that. It's a lot more stripped down and a lot more frightening, at least. It's very, very weird sounding, and it definitely gives another weird instance to this album's already weird sort of aspect. But then, going back to the lyrical content, I would say that some of the lyrics on this album verge on being very, very harsh and very controversial. I want to say it reminds me a lot of the early I Hate God albums, In the Eyes of God era, Today is the Day. That's the sort of idea that I pick up when I listen to the lyrical content, preferably the first 3 tracks of this album. It's probably not going to be for everybody's liking. I'm pretty sure there are people that will be they'll feel uncomfortable and unpleasant by some of the lyrical content, but because of this vocalist's state of mind, his past life experiences, it's all just an ugly struggle. It's very ugly, very harsh, very demented. It's not going to be for everybody, but just the way he handles himself and the way that he goes about this lyrical content is done in a very, very striking performance. It's very, very harsh. It's very, very ugly. But yet I believe he is a tortured artist who gets the job done here. And Last thing to mention here is the artwork. I would say the artwork here is very, very, very striking and very controversial. I don't expect other people to say that this is better than what Justin Bartlett had did. If I'm not mistaken, Rest, Jeff Whitehead of Leviathan, did the artwork here. And of course, the artwork is very reminiscent of some of the trials and tribulations that the vocalist of this band had. It's very ugly. It's something that you don't want to look at, but yet there's a meaning and a substance behind it. As ugly and as disgusting as it may seem, it it gets the job done. But then again, this is metal. This is not rock and roll. Metal isn't meant to be safe or happy or cheerful. There is an ugly, disgusting concept behind it, and yet I believe that this concept works. For Lord Mantis, I think this concept works tremendously. And whether it's to your liking or whether you like it or not, that's entirely up to you. But if you would rather listen to something that has no offensive words, imagery, you clearly should be listening to that instead of Death Mask by Lord Mantis. So, overall, I think this is a very, very gripping, cold, harsh piece of reality. I really enjoy the musicianship. I enjoy the concept. I enjoy the ugliness. This is just another great Lord Mantis record. Again, I don't know if I like it more than I do Perverter, but I think this is a very, very, very beautiful, beautiful, ugly piece of music. And to showcase the artwork, one before I close this review, is just this little fold out with the lyrics. This is some additional artwork done by Jeff Whitehead. It's a little bit less controversial than the cover, but I still think it's a very, very beautiful piece of artwork, regardless of how one may take it. Again, people will have their opinions, but if I had to pick any personal favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Body Choke, Possession Prayers, and Negative Birth. So I will leave you some links in the description box as to how you can listen to this album and get a hold of it. I will link you to the Profound Lore Bandcamp, where you can stream this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can buy it digitally there if you care to, and it is also available in a physical format, the Digipack version. You can buy it in regular record stores, which of course will have a giant Lord Mantis sticker covering the album cover art, which again is very ugly and very controversial, but that was the point of things to begin with. So I'm going to show you the album again. This is Death Mask by Lord Mantis. This is released on Profound Lore Records. Buy it at your own risk if you wish. And as far as the score goes, I'm going to give this a very solid 9 out of 10. This is a very ugly, cold, harsh piece of metal, but yet they know exactly what they're doing. So support Lord Mantis, or don't. Choice is yours. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Army Ho out.